Alright everyone, so today is the big day, I hope. Anyway, we're going to find out. But today's the day we're going to finish this car. That's it. It's done after today, pending any issues, but there shouldn't be any problems with getting this car done today. I have everything I need. I have drive shaft bolts, I have the drive shaft itself. To make the new intake, I have to go to a 3-inch instead of a 4-inch because it's just too large due to the fact that the radiator intake is right now and not on the other side where it typically should be for this swap, but I don't care. I'm going to make it work. So that's it. I got to put the transmission back in. The headers are in for good. Beep. I had to put some heat wrap on it because the power steering line is really close. I'll show you guys that later. And then I have to move the engine back. So that's where we're at with this right now. So in other news, it's a little unfortunate. The MR2 is gone. Omar sold the MR2. Unfortunately, he has a problem right now. Okay, so this is the deal. So Omar hasn't been around much. He's kind of getting out of the car game, you know. It's because he has a new addiction, and not necessarily a good one, but it's not my business to disclose. But I think it's important that we support him right now in his time of need. So I'd appreciate if you guys, you know, would show some love for Omar in the comments. Let him know that, you know, you're still watching and you're still looking for him and you want him to post some videos up, but I don't think it's going to happen. He's been like a zombie around the office whenever I see him. You know, he sleeps maybe an hour a night, if that. He's just, this new addiction is just sucking the life out of him, and it's been rough. So I think we all need to really buckle down and show him some support and let him know, you know, we want to see him back here, you know. It's very important. You know, he's the other half of this, so I think it's time that you know, we get him some help. Maybe AA, an intervention, maybe, you know, I don't know. You know, let me know what you guys think. What the best way to help a friend in need who's traveling down a dark path, and you know, it's unfortunate, but we'll get him straight, and we'll get him back out here. And right now it's hitting my fan, so the engine shifted a little bit. Here's the heat wrap. This is the power steering line. I have to fasten this to the rail, but it's a little difficult to get in there in order to do that, so I got to play around with that. But that's it. I got my new belt. This is where the alternator's going. It's going up here. This is the intake. I have to modify this a little bit. Cut a little bit of this back so I can slide it in. That was the 4-inch. Now we're going to go to a 3-inch so I can hopefully not hit this. But we'll see. I'll make it work. I'll squeeze it if I have to. There should be enough headroom in the on the hood to get it to work. All right, guys. So we got the throwout bearing assembly thing, whatever the hell this thing's called, in the transmission now. I have my fittings on here. This is the custom fitting you have to buy in order to get this to work. We tried modifying the existing piece. So what we tried doing is taking the quick connect piece that came on the throwout bearing and cutting this part off so we could reuse this, because this is the crucial part here, is this notch in the lip, and then there's a seal. But what happened is there's supposed to be a nipple at the end, and it broke off. You can see we just welded on the threaded side to connect the hose to, but we broke this nipple so we couldn't use it. But if you didn't want to buy the piece, this is what you could do. Just cut this end off, and then as long as you have this end that's good with the nipple on it, you can weld the piece onto it, because this is just steel, so it's good. Just weld on some threads at the end, and then you could reuse this. You don't have to spend the $20 or whatever it is to get that specialty part. This is in. I'm going to get the car up on the lift and roll the transmission in. Hopefully I can get this mounted in without too much of a headache. All right, everyone. So I didn't get the car completely finished, but this is where I'm at right now. Everything that needs to be in or bolted on or what have you is on the car. So the radiator's all hooked up, the intake's all done, the alternator, the accessories, the headers, the full exhaust, transmission, drive shaft, everything is in the car. So I ended up spending about 12 hours getting this car all together. The most time-consuming part of it was trying to get the transmission in by myself. It took me about 4 hours to do, and it was absolutely miserable. I don't recommend trying to put the transmission in when your engine is almost completely together with exhaust, and the radiator was in. It wasn't hooked up, but it was still in the way. All the wiring, the power steering lines were hooked up, so I had to undo those, I had to take the radiator out, and then unbolt the engine mounts, and then ended up lifting the transmission lifting the engine halfway out. It was just an absolute nightmare. And then when I finally got the input shaft past the clutch, I couldn't get the splines lined up on the actual clutch itself and the transmission. Needless to say, it was a nightmare. But it's in, it's done, everything's bolted up. I have a couple minor little things left to do, like bleed the brakes, fill it with fluids. I got to bleed the clutch, and that's basically it. It's ready to go. Put the front end back on. That's little BS stuff. And then one thing I had to do, even though you move the shifter forward on the 350Z transmission, you still got to cut a little bit out of the transmission tunnel. And mind you, this was about 8 hours into trying to finish this up, and beyond frustrated at this point. So I'm gonna clean this up. This isn't my finest work by any means. A blind drunk guy probably could have cut this nicer, but I mean, I guess if he cut it like this, he did a pretty good job. But so this is where I had to cut the tunnel out. So I'm going to end up cleaning these up a little bit and then adding some steel to make it a little presentable. But the shifter's in. It's in place. It's not in a bad location. As you can see, it's a little further back, but I mean, it's there. One thing I wanted to cover real quick while the car's all together is what I ended up doing for my accessories. I know I talked about it a lot in different videos and ideas of what I was going to do, but so I'm using the stock truck steering pump. This is the stock bracket. This is where the alternator on a truck would be, but what I ended up doing is moving the alternator over here where the tensioner would be above the water pump, and I took the tensioner, I took the pulley off, and then just used one of the alternator bolts to hold it here, and it actually with the spacer and the bearing and everything flush up against this. Hopefully the belt doesn't walk off. I'll find out when it starts. I might have to space this out a little bit, but I have more than enough room to do that. And then on the alternator underneath here, you can't see it, but there's a turnbuckle on there, so that's how I'm adjusting the belt. And then on the water pump, one of the areas where you bolt the tensioner to, you have to grind down a little bit to get the alternator to fit. Unless you use a smaller one, I could have gotten away with the smaller alternator because I don't have any electronics in the car, just the headlights and stuff. So, but I just kept this. This is a new one, obviously, but a stock truck spec alternator. And then for the intake, because I wanted to keep this coil radiator, it's already aftermarket and it will be more than enough to handle this, and it had the fans already, so I had to ghetto rig this hose, which comes up and over the radiator, or up and over the intake. And then I also had to shrink my intake from a 4-inch, which I wanted to use just because it looked pretty sick, to a 3-inch so I can get the clearance. And it's tight, but it's not going to rub. So this is the lower hose. It's an ISR from the SR20, and I cut a little bit off this end, like 3 inches, this much to be exact, off the hose, and then just ran it up and over the intake. Now I will have to cut out a little bit here on the hood and then, if I'm not mistaken, right here on the hood to get it to shut all the way. But right now it's about half an inch, less than half an inch actually, from closing on this side, on the driver's side, because it hit. You can see the dirt on this from sitting all week. But other than that, I mean, I don't really have too many clearance issues running the alternator over there. I mean, if I had the radiator on the other side, I could run the intake on the driver's side where it's typically run and not have too many issues. I could have also located this, got a smaller pulley, maybe located it in that hole there, and then not have that clearance issue as well. So there's other options. You don't have to go with the F-body accessories or the Cadillac or the GTO, whatever. I mean, you can make it work. It's just a matter of, what you want to do, really. And then for the steam vent, I just have it coming out here. Underneath the intake, it's all rerouted because the stock truck lines won't fit under the LS intake. But it's all routed to here, and then I put this T in, and then I have the catch can or overflow can here. And then the vacuum system, I just got a cheap tank off eBay, and then that's all routed. That line, I have to secure this line a little bit, but for now it's fine. But that's pretty much it, guys. So stay tuned. I'm gonna have this up and running in the next day or so, and I'll definitely make a video of that and get it posted. I know we've been slacking. The most difficult part with trying to get the transmission in is not just that I was trying to do it by myself, but I don't have a transmission jack stand or anything like that, so I was just trying to use your normal jack stand with blocks of wood, and it just kept falling off. Big mosquito. But it's done. It's in. The one thing I still have to do, which I've been procrastinating and doing, and now it's kind of come back to haunt me, is the stock dipstick I ripped out. This is the piece here. And I never put it back in. So there's still a hole where this was in the block. So unfortunately, I got to take some pressure off the engine mounts and pull the passenger side engine mount out and put this in. I'm going to throw a little tack in here, probably on the bottom actually, so it doesn't melt the seal. And hammer this in so it plugs that hole. And then I can tighten up the engine mounts. And then after that, like I said, I just got to put fluids in it and then finally start this thing. Super excited. Can't wait. So stay tuned for that. Really thrilling. Finally get this thing on the road and moving. So like and subscribe, and let me know if you have any questions. You want to know anything that I did during this swap that might help you if you're about to attempt this. There's a lot of little things that aren't really readily available information that people don't necessarily tell you because it's just little BS things that have haunted me, and I'm sure it'll haunt the next guy. It's been tough putting videos up lately. With work's been crazy, and Omar's addicted to Asian hookers and bubblegum now, and he sold his car, so I'm kind of a solo man now, trying to get videos up for you guys, but they're coming. The car's, like I said, 98% done. Some minor little stuff, and we'll be out driving and getting some more videos and going to some end of the season car meets. And I have some plans. I want to get together with some other people and document their cars and their builds that they're starting now, because it's going to be winter time and get ready for the drift season. So luckily my car should be buttoned up by next spring if I decide not to tear it back apart and start over again. So stay tuned for the official startup video, and have a good weekend.